NBA All-Star Weekend has arrived, the trade deadline has come and gone, and Duke, of course, is all over the headlines. What would you expect? The Brotherhood continues to take over the NBA.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It's so great to have you here with us today on Friday, February 14th, 2025. Happy Valentine's Day out there to everyone there. Locked On Blue Devils is here for you each and every day. We talk all things Duke athletics, your one-stop shop to get all of the news and notes that you need to know about this Duke program. On today's show, we're going to catch you up on everything that's been going on in the NBA the last few weeks with the trade deadline passing. It is NBA All-Star Weekend now, and Duke, of course, is all over the place. I got to have this conversation with our good friend Josh Cox here on today's show. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. A little bit later in the program, I'll have some 5-Star Friday shout-outs to give to folks there. Really appreciate all the support that you give us. Also, watch our show each and every day on YouTube. Like the videos, share them with your friends. Really trying to continue to grow this Locked On Blue Devils community as we get closer to 3,000 subscribers. And that is a milestone I cannot wait to celebrate with all of you. So without further ado, really excited to bring him on into the program. The aforementioned Josh Cox is back here with us. All-Star Weekend has arrived. Josh is certainly a Locked On Blue Devils All-Star as I hand out those awards, man. I hope you're doing well. We've got a lot to catch up on here on the show today.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day to you, JJ. Thanks for having me on.
I thought of you when this day came up. Yes,
one of the most romantic things I've ever done on a Valentine's Day. So, no, man, it is. It's NBA All-Star Weekend, and basically at this point, this is just basically the Duke Invitational.
Yes.
When we talk NBA basketball, and so between Duke and the country of France, I think that those two things are running basketball at this moment. So
no doubt about that. I mean, you look at what Duke does year in and year out. We'll put Kentucky in the same conversation, but those two schools are littered throughout the league. 20+ guys from Duke inside the association this year. We just saw the trade deadline come and go. We saw Duke players all throughout those headlines. And now we get set for All-Star Weekend, and we're going to have our fair share of Blue Devil representation taking place throughout the weekend as well. And I think that's where we'll start. We'll start All-Star and get to the trades a little bit later here, Josh. And once again, you look at these starters that are named, and Jayson Tatum continues to lead the way for this Duke program. Once again, he's going to be an All-Star for the 6th time now in his career.
I mean, what more can you say about Jayson Tatum other than that he's a professional's professional? He goes about his business. He's not flashy until he is, right? That's the best way of describing Jayson Tatum. He's not flashy until he happens to dunk on you when you don't expect him to dunk on you, right? He's not flashy until he hits the fadeaway right in your grill as time expires on the clock, right? So, he's a high character guy and just a super talented guy. And, coming off of, I think the last time we spoke about the NBA, we talked about coming off of that NBA title defense. You may have, expected a downturn from Jayson Tatum, and really his rebounding numbers are up and his scoring average is right there where it was. And, he's really having another good season. I say good season, another great season for the Boston Celtics.
Jayson Tatum has been awesome to watch each and every night, continues to improve his game, and it's so deserving to be an all-star once again. When you look at the best players within the league, he is certainly one of those. Boston right now, second in the Eastern Conference, trying to defend their title from a year ago. Almost feels like they just want the playoffs to start now, Josh. They're kind of getting, as you would expect, a little bored with the regular season, and definitely a team that I would not want to see come playoff time, because Tatum's going to have them ready to go for that repeat.
Yeah, for sure. A little bit of a different road, I feel like this year, because I think obviously Cleveland, playing, at a very high level. And then, I don't think anyone wants to see the Knicks in a series. And then, once Giannis gets healthy, it's like, You don't want to see the Bucks. And oh, by the way, I'm not even talking about the Magic or the Pacers.
Right.
So the Eastern Conference, whereas I think last season, you kind of took for granted that, maybe barring Milwaukee run, that Boston was going to come out of the East last year. And, this season, the Eastern Conference is tougher, and that's not going to be, as easy of a walk for them. But at the end of the day, you're exactly right. They know what they need to do. Listen, Drew Holiday has been kept a little bit in the garage. Al Horford's being kept in the garage a little bit. You're seeing Luke Cornett minutes, and those types of things. Which, no disrespect to Luke Cornett, but what you're going to see is as they get closer to playoff basketball time, those guys are going to get back, into the minutes that they are typically in playing, and I believe you're going to see a Boston team firing on all cylinders at the right time, and that's all that they are truly concerned about at this point.
And so Tatum is going to be a big reason why they're able to do that. He is an all-star once again for the 6th time in his career. Other Duke all-stars in recent memory that you might be thinking of, the likes of Paolo Banchero and Zion Williamson, are two guys that represent Duke, top picks within the league. They have made all-star teams in their career. This year, however, for too much of the start, their seasons have been defined by injuries.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the obvious one there is Banchero. I mean, he's on the rise. He just was out for 3/4 of this season so far with his injury, and he's now back. And honestly, they've got some ground to make up in the East. I mean, they're currently, I think they're in the play-in. I think they're the 9 seed right now, 8 or 9 seed. They're in the play-in game. And so, I believe that, Franz and Paulo and company will right the ship, and by the time this is all said and done, be the 6 or 7 seed in the East. But they've got some work to do to get there. And so, that's the kind of the unfortunate thing about the All-Star game is that, you're really voting on just, the performance of this block portion of the season.
Yeah.
And not necessarily, really, you ought to say, take into consideration from post All-Star game 2024 all the way until now, really should be what you're voting on, when you're thinking All-Star, because it's not just about these 3 months or so that's taking place. It should be about since the last All-Star game happened. It should be that 12-month period. And if that were the case, I think Paolo Banchero is an All-Star. Yeah. He's obviously an All-Star talent.
At the end of the day, only 24 people in the world get honored with this recognition. And so the fact that you're even in these conversations or have been able to accomplish this at some point in your life is incredibly impressive. And Paulo has been there. Zion has been there before, injuries again. But Kyrie Irving is an All-Star. Yeah. He is selected as an All-Star. He just missed out of the cut right away when making these teams and kind of putting them together, but then injuries to Giannis Antetokounmpo and Anthony Davis asked for replacements to be made, picked by Commissioner Adam Silver, and Kyrie Irving was one of the players that he selected. This is now, believe it or not, Josh, the 9th time in Kyrie's career that he's been selected as an All-Star. There's been a whole lot of Tatum love over the last few years when you kind of talk about Duke's face in the NBA, and rightfully so. But a 9-time All-Star in Kyrie Irving. Think about this. All-Star weekend this weekend is in the Bay Area, where he famously hit a pretty big shot to win his NBA championship.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, I think it's not really a debate that skill, like actual basketball skill, like basketball players know, right? It takes one to know one. Kyrie Irving is one of the best skilled players in the history of the game. Mm-hmm. And, through decisions that he made and some off the court stuff, maybe it went through a stretch there in the Boston, Brooklyn years where he was obviously not the favorite, fan favorite, probably wasn't the favorite in his locker room for a variety of reasons. Has absolutely reinvented his career in Dallas. He would say he has an organization that believes in him. And then Dallas would probably say, we found a player who's now ready to play basketball, right? And put those tertiary things to the side and really focus on the craft. And what you've seen over the last 2.5 seasons, I believe it is now, in Dallas, is you've seen Kyrie Irving showing who he is. And you're now talking about a guy who's in his early 30s, which I know that's not old, but in basketball years, you're beginning
been around a while.
Yeah, you're beginning to slow down a little bit. This is a guy that's been in the league, 12 years, 13, I forget what it is, but he's been in the league for a while now. And it's like, he should be slowing down, and he's showing no signs of slowing down, to the point that Dallas, I'm not sure if anyone heard of this. They traded Luka Doncic. I'm not sure if you've been living under a rock, but in essence, what they're saying is we're comfortable with the rock being in Kyrie Irving's hand the vast majority of the time, and we still think we can win basketball games that way. And so, I mean, nothing but love for Kyrie and how he's really, like I said, reinvented himself and bounced back as a player in the NBA, and well-deserved all-star spot.
What a tease. The basketball world was, in fact, it blew up with some trades that were made as trade deadline came closer. Duke players found new homes. They were sent back to play. I mean, it's been chaotic in the world of Duke basketball at the next level. So we'll continue to break some of those things down and more with our pal Josh Cox when Locked On Blue Devils continues here in just a moment. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Factor. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences, every week you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle. Whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto Plus, Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfast, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50off and use code LockedOnCollege50off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code LockedOnCollege50off at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factor is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Let's keep the show rolling. Josh Cox back with us talking Duke basketball at the next level. Several trades went down that have impacted rosters and how they're constructed and that sort of thing. We can look at the biggest one that absolutely made the world go crazy with Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis being swapped for one another. Luka to LA, AD to Dallas. Kyrie Irving lost his running mate in Dallas. Now he's got a lob threat in Anthony Davis when he stays healthy. JJ Redick, the head coach of the Lakers, now has the best 25 and under, the young superstar, one of the best players in the entire world that he gets to coach.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, there's a lot that's going on with that. There's a lot of conspiracy theories, semi-conspiracy theories on why it happened. At the end of the day, Luka Doncic, whether he is, in shape or not, is a top 4 at the lowest, a top 5 player in the world right now. And if you're JJ Redick and you're the Lakers, you're Rob Pelinka, you're thinking, okay, even though LeBron James at 40 is still a freaking baller. I think he had 42 points, 42 points less than a week ago. You are setting the Lakers franchise up for its next, stint. And so, they've gone, I'm not going to go all the way back in history, but recent history, Kobe, then LeBron, right? And here's your next iteration of that. And so for him, great. For Dallas, on the other hand, like you said, Kyrie's got AD, and then you can't forget Derek Lively on that team. And honestly, it's going to be interesting with Lively. He greatly benefited from the game of Luka Doncic.
Yes.
And he fit very well with that, to the point that I'm sure we're about to get to, that LA went after a Derek Lively type of a player, and Mark Williams, the Hornets' former Blue Devil. And obviously, very famously, Dalton Knecht, a part of that trade. There was issues with the physical there on the Mark Williams side, and we've kind of known he's had some foot issues and stuff. But for whatever reason, the physical didn't pass according to Pelinka, for multiple reasons. And so that trade got rescinded. And so, right now you've got Luka in LA with a Jackson Hayes as opposed to a Mark Williams. So it'll be interesting to see, how LA works with that. And then also, like I said, how Derek Lively as a person, as a player, how he is able to, to maneuver that. And obviously I know with injuries and stuff with Lively, that's factoring in here, but just thinking more broadly and long-term for him.
And it's, here on this program, not that we need to be validated anymore or anything like that, but so frequently you and I are talking about the similarities throughout that Final Four season that, like, man, you know what? I got to tell you, Mark Williams, really similar to Derek Lively. Derek Lively, really similar to Mark Williams. And here we are in the basketball world. That's a player that Luka, one of the best in the entire world, signs off on, hey, let's go try and get this guy. Let's make the trade happen and that sort of thing. While you and I are talking here, Josh, we don't really know what's going to happen with this trade. As you said, it's been rescinded. Now the Hornets are saying we need this to be looked at by the NBA. I don't know how they wouldn't have passed this physical. I would hate to be Mark Williams in this position, right? And then also Cam Reddish is tied up in this as well. Cam Reddish was with the Lakers, traded to the Hornets. Now the rescinded trade sends him back to the Lakers. He's not been with the team right now, as his girl just brought a baby into the world. So Cam Reddish is now a father trying to figure out, where am I going to be playing basketball next?
I think sometimes we dehumanize these players because they do make a lot of money and they kind of live in a world that 99% of us are unfamiliar with. But these are real human beings that have real lives outside of basketball. And you're exactly right. Just thinking of the logistics of, Cam Reddish, now being a father and like, where is this family going to base out of? Like, how is he going to see his kid? Like, like those types of things, they do matter. And I think, a little bit of the humanization came in when the tragedy of the fires in the California area and specifically JJ Redick, like is his house burning down and, his kids, you can think, hey, they grew up with anything and everything they wanted. And you're probably correct, but that doesn't take away from the fact that they have sentimental value and things. And so anyway, that is interesting in all this, the trades, people getting moved around, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, you were based out of Los Angeles, California. You're now based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Like, couldn't get, more radical.
Opposite side of the coast.
Yeah, for sure.
No doubt about that.
But all that to say, Duke guys are in the news. Cam Reddish had actually carved out a pretty decent role, I felt like, in LA, and really turned into like a defensive kind of more stopper than you would have obviously thought of Cam Reddish coming out of high school, that he was just a sharpshooting scorer, but he's really carved out a role on the defensive side.
Okay, a couple of more Blue Devils were traded. We'll get to those deals and a few other things when we take our next time out here on the show, and we're back with a whole lot more good stuff here on Locked On Blue Devils today. Locked On Blue Devils is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. We're talking about the NBA, and guess what? The NBA is plugged in with FanDuel as well, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Okay, let's keep this thing going. We're talking about some trades that took place in the association that you're looking for new teams to root for. Where are these players going and that sort of thing. Another really impactful player, a top pick for the Blue Devils, was traded north of the border. Brandon Ingram was traded from the Pelicans to the Toronto Raptors earlier this week. He gets a new long-term deal to be there in Toronto. So he goes from playing with one Duke 2019 running mate in Zion Williamson. Now he's teaming up on the Raptors with Zion's college teammate, RJ Barrett. So Brandon Ingram and RJ Barrett are going to be up playing for the Raptors.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for Brandon Ingram, he was at a place in his career where, New Orleans was shopping him, and it was becoming increasingly difficult to find a willing buyer for Brandon Ingram. And there's a complex set of issues as to why I would say he's not the greatest defensive player that you've come across. He's also he's a high volume shooter. He's a guy that needs the ball in his hands in order to be effective. And a lot of the sport right now, because of, I believe, the influence of the international game, among other things, is really, how efficient can you be with or without the ball, and how much impact can you have, taking as few dribbles as possible, right? And so the game has evolved a little bit, and Brandon Ingram's game is going to have to evolve to keep up. And so finding a suitor in the Raptors to take on him and, like you said, sign him will be interesting. I do think that his game fits. Him and RJ, that'll be interesting. Kind of two high volume guys there, but it could absolutely work, and good for him. At the end of the day, I mean, let's be real. Let's cut to the chase here. It's about getting paid. It's about signing another contract, and he did it. And he's an extremely talented dude and can hit some ridiculous shots. And there's a reason why people have always compared him to a KD-like guy.
Undoubtedly. Yeah. It's just his ability each and every year to continue to get a bucket whenever needed. He's a guy that we don't think about as often. I think immediately when you talk about the top players that played for Duke at the next level. But yeah, Brandon Ingram's going to let people know I could still get buckets when I need to. And now he's got a chance to play with RJ. And maybe RJ can benefit from that as well, right? Like, here's someone that you've already got this connection with, you've already crossed paths with several times, being Duke players, being top 3 picks, and a guy that's going to be in your corner at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And, anyway, listen, can we redo?
Let me get to the next one. Yeah, absolutely.
I completely checked out, dude.
You're good.
That was wild. So.
No, hey, this is what we do. We're going to keep moving. Here we go. On to the next trade.
Sorry, bro. I hope it's the trade that I'm waiting for.
Okay. Well, why don't you just
Marvin Bagley? Is it Marvin Bagley?
I was going to skip Bagley, but we can go to Bags.
Oh, no.
Go to Bagley. I'm so curious what's going to happen. I mean, this guy's moved all the time. I want him to find a good spot, man, and maybe this will be it.
This is my Marvin Bagley take. He has never been on a team that was serious about winning basketball games. Anytime, like, the Kings got serious about winning and they got rid of him. That was kind of the way it was so crazy. I get all of his limitations. I understand. I completely see all the critics of Marvin Bagley. They all have a voice, and I think they are valid. But he is now on a roster where they can win. They're super talented. They've got crazy good, potential on that team. And who knows? Marvin Bagley could be that, like, spark plug guy, the athletic guy, the rim runner. I think
the lobs are what I'm hopeful for. Is that you've got Ja going downhill, and
exactly. You got Bane. Anyway, I think that he is set up to have more success in Memphis as far as team success, as far as, like, really him feeling like a valued part of a franchise than he ever has. So that's my Marvin Bagley take. I could see him really contributing in the rotation, probably not starting, but contributing in the rotation and becoming a guy that could definitely benefit from being on the Memphis Grizzlies. That was my Marvin Bagley take. We can move forward.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm all for it. I want him to be successful. I think going to Memphis, great point that, hey, we've got this opportunity to win, and the Grizzlies have been so good. Hopefully it all fits together and that sort of thing. Another lefty, a part of the Brotherhood that plays for the Grizzlies, is Luke Kennard. Want to give him a shout out. He's having a career year. I mean, that guy has been a baller throughout the season for Memphis because there have been injuries to Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, and Luke Kennard's taken advantage of those opportunities. So love anytime that happens, right? I think he's still leading the NBA in 3-point percentage this season.
I mean, it's like, hey, Grayson wins it last year. Luke Kennard wins it this year. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
Luke is you talk about a guy who has figured out like what his role is in the league and, how do you maximize that? It's Luke Kennard. He's done a great job of his skill set fits with what Memphis wants, and he has maximized his opportunities. And so, yeah, I mean, he's the kind of guy. Whenever he's successful, you're just rooting for the kid. So I'm a Luke Kennard fan. 100%.
I think our last trade to touch on here would be Tre Jones leaving San Antonio. He's been traded to the Chicago Bulls. He was once throwing lobs to Victor Wembanyama, and now that's just not the case anymore. He had this half a season so far with Chris Paul. I would imagine he was able to learn a whole lot from being teammates there in San Antonio, but the Spurs get a chance to bring De'Aaron Fox to their team, and there are going to be jobs for many, many years to come for Tre Jones, as we're seeing with his older brother Tyus. As long as you take care of the basketball, set your teammates up, you play tough defense, and all of those things. So exciting for him. Now a father of 3, again, talking about these young families on the move, heading to the Windy City, a little bit closer to his hometown in Minnesota. And now he's got a chance to play for the Bulls and get a reset.
Yeah, and I think for him, I mean, this is no disrespect to him. He's kind of a forgotten guy. He's a guy that flies so far under the radar that, like, when the Spurs were talking about getting Chris Paul, it was like, they don't have anybody, to run the team, and it's like Tre Jones was there, and then it's like, well, they don't have anybody to play with Chris Paul and help run. Well, Tre Jones was there, you know what I mean? And I understand De'Aaron Fox is a major upgrade there. I'm not in any way taken away from that, but Tre Jones needs to use this time in Chicago to show that he is valuable, right? To show that he's a guy like Tyus did, like, hey, I'm going to lead the league in assist to turnover ratio, right? I'm going to become a guy that can fit on a team like, the Phoenix Suns, like Tyus has found, and just find a spot. And so I hope Tre can do that. He's going to have opportunities. The lob threat to Vucevic is not quite the same as the lob threat to Wemby.
I still can't believe we had 7'5" Wemby and little Tre Jones just standing next to each other from time to time.
Yeah, for sure. But once again, like you said, he's closer to home, and I think it's a great opportunity for a reset, for him, and to get featured a little bit more and see what he does. Like, higher usage, see where his numbers go, and then he's ultimately playing for his next contract.
Yep. Well, look, I know that as All-Star Weekend is here, you and I are going to continue to follow and monitor what's going on with Duke players at the next level, as we always do. This is a program that's going to make headlines at the next level for many years to come. That's not changing anytime soon. And so always fun to chop it up with you, Josh, and catch up on where all these Duke players are at and that sort of thing. So you have any final thoughts?
My only final thought is we didn't cover this because it doesn't matter to our conversation, but when you think of the NBA, now they're talking about the teams that are tanking to try to get that first pick. They're calling it capture the flag. It's capture the flag. They're going, who can get that first pick so that they can draft Cooper Flag. And so we'll be talking about him next season when we're talking about this. And so it just, and then it's going to be, hey, where did Khan get drafted? And what about come on, which team is so it's fun.
And then there are boozers to get to the next level, and then we get to keep this game going over and over again. Man, it's so great to be part of the brotherhood. Josh, tell us about Section 17, Duke Report, everything you want to. How can people support you?
Yeah, for sure. Football, Section 17 podcast. Basketball is at Duke Report. Shout out to my friend Freddie Hodges. I get to work with him. And then my personal is at Joshua Cox. But we're talking all things Duke, man, all the time. And so I appreciate the support. Obviously, it's Friday, so make sure you are following Locked On Blue Devils on all the social channels, including YouTube. And so like, subscribe, 5-star ratings, all that good stuff.
Yeah, 5-star Friday. I said I'd give a shout out. I got a good one today. I got a new one that I want to give some love to. Gumby for Life. Someone, Gumby for Life, gave us 5 stars, said, gotta have it every morning, gotta listen to JJ while I walk my dog. Go Duke.
There you go.
So if you want a shout out, all you got to do is leave us one of those 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Josh, great to see you, man. We'll do this again soon, okay?
Have a good weekend, JJ. We'll see you, man.
All right, that's Josh Cox joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Big weekend for Duke, obviously taking on Stanford tomorrow inside Cameron Indoor Stadium. Hopefully we get to see a Duke win there for the Blue Devils. We're back on Monday to recap all of that and so much more. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you on Monday. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.